Kowski?
Here.
Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, John, you've got 5 minutes.
No, this is budget.
Oh, this is budget.
He's got every
They'll be
excuse
trying
under
to
the
sneak
sun.
it in the other information during the budget.
You have your watch. Okay.
Did you get the things for the drama for all paper?
No,
Or did you-
nope.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Chip actually knows me well, he's sat through a lot of long board meetings.
I mean,
That's your budget update for the month. I wanted to go over it first before we get into the technology portion of our presentation this evening. And basically, Dorothy's here to answer any particular questions, but if you go down to the bottom, we are within 1%, again, parallel to last year. And so you can see with the total expenses and the total with revenue and expenses, we're under 1%. So there are some areas in the revenue where we still need to apply for some grants and so on, but we're pretty close overall with our budget. So, any questions that Dorothy can entertain that? Am I starting now? Okay, tonight we've been leading up to our presentation this evening, our recommendation for our technology and facility plan for some time now. And the format tonight is going to follow the format that we've used for our planning process. And again, I want the community to know it's another case, live consolidation, where here's what we said we were going to do, we will follow through and do, and then we'll be accountable for. So much like our planning process, we had the survey data that drove what we did, our community. Not only drove the items that were on the survey themselves, or not only drove the items that were on the technology and facility plan, but then the community did go in and prioritize those items for us. And you're going to see that information tonight. Crystal and Karen will present it. Evan, working with Chip, will present the technology and facility proposal itself, which is basically taking all the input from our community and staff and putting numbers, estimated numbers, assigned to those items. And then we're gonna have a presentation on the finances, our financing options that we have in regard to financing this technology and facility proposal or plan. And then I'm actually going to give you my recommendation at this point. But again, we're gonna have a discussion this evening and then a final recommendation as we move forward. Our plan did derive from the community and from our school district values and goals, and that is to provide the best technology and facilities we can provide for our students and staff. Our plan did integrate the lessons learned. We worked with engineers, architects, and construction management as far as coming up with our plan. Our plan also had agreed upon statements. We went to our community and staff, you yourself even as a board, everyone had an opportunity to list those items that they felt were items that should be addressed with technology and facilities. Our plan is, then we took the financial data that you'll see this evening with all the items that were listed and put estimated amounts to that. And our plan will be community and staff driven as evident by the presentation this evening. Everything will go together for tonight's final proposal, and here's where we are this evening. And that is the fact that, that we have our data, we have the numbers, and now we're gonna have a recommendation presented to you, the Board of Education. And just like with the consolidation, as we build credibility with the community, we will be accountable for what we do and what we put into place. Wow, this is gonna go faster. I do talk
You're doing
long.
good, Jack.
You should time me every meeting is what Beth is thinking.
all we have to do is talk money, do you?
Anyway, I'm using my time. So, but this is the format that we did follow, and I'm very proud of that. It takes more time to do it what I call the right way. It takes time to really seek the opinion of your staff and community and actually use that opinion. Not like some schools where they seek it, but we actually did use that, those priorities from our community. You'll see it tonight for our final recommendation. And then here we are this evening for the presentation to the board. And then you can see if we do indeed move forward with some type of public financing from this point, then we do have a timeline in regard to if we go to a November election. So with that said, a lot of people owe me for that. I'm under 5 minutes, so I'll turn that over now to Evan and Chip Hendry. I'm sorry, to, excuse me.
Did he
We
do
didn't
it?
make that change today. To Crystal and Karen, to go over the survey.
Don't
Thank you.
encourage him.
Meeting.
See, he'll talk all the way back.
I'm done.
I just have one question. How much did that auctioneer class that you took cost?
I'll pay for it.
Thanks, Ray.
I'm sure your administrators will chip in too.
Yeah, they would. So would you.
Okay, so John's gonna pass out the material, and we'll make it short, we'll go under our 10 minutes, so he can have a few minutes.
Thank you.
I'm tired, I just drove 11 hours to get here. So we're going to go right to the point. So here's question number 1, and we asked the community, like, so, would they support a sinking fund? And as you can see, 62.3% of the people said yes. So overwhelming, they will support our sinking fund idea. The second question was, would you support a 1 mil technology and facility fund? Now, as you can see, it looks like the yes part is only 47.7%, and no is 52.3%. But if you look at your sheets, you'll see a page in there that shows, because we did put the votes that the people did for transparency. And the one in yellow, so go to the next slide, you'll notice the second sheet has it marked in yellow. So if you look at the time and dates of everything in yellow, they're like within seconds of each other, like someone says that. No, 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 no. And it's very like obvious. If you take that and pull those out that are in those dates, and if you notice that all the other surveys, the spacing of the normal votes. And I did leave some no's in there, and just because, you know, maybe they did vote no. So we didn't take them all out in a row, we left some, and it's still overwhelming 73% yes. So you'd have to make the determination of yourself if you think. But if you look at the dates, and the reality is, there was one gap in there, but it was about enough time to get up and go potty or get a drink, and then they came back and brought at it. So that was an interesting, if you really look at the date itself instead of the pie chart maps.
Rather flagrant, wasn't it?
Unless a whole bunch of them were
And
hanging
so
out.
then we
Yes.
had a survey up for each school with various repairs or suggestions from the first survey that had been done, and asked people to prioritize what they wanted. So if it's a priority 1, it's the most important, and if it's priority 3, it's the least important. And so we have here the top 5 for each school, and then the bottom 5 for each school. And people are pretty basic. The top 5 in most schools come out to the roofs, the computers, heating and cooling, the network, infrastructure. And then the bottom 5 is more superficial things like landscaping,
Aquatic
aquatic center, stuff like that. So
Paint, yeah, just things that.
yeah, so we did that for each school, and it's pretty similar, top 5 for each school, heat, roof, computers, those types of things, and then the bottom 5 is, you know, auditorium, landscaping, paint, things like that. So, it's pretty basic, what people think that we need.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Any questions for, regarding the survey?
How many actually took part in the survey?
It varied from the school, and
Right.
so for the high school was the most, it was about 79, and then, maintenance was the least at like 40 or 50. So it wasn't as good of a turnout as we expected, but it was promoted in a lot of different
What
places.
about on this part of it, when we voted on each
So
of
it
these?
shows on the sheet, I think the, first one sinking fund, if I'm not mistaken, was 114. The second one for the technology where it had all the, was 240 something. So it really jumped from the sinking bond one. And if you pull them out, then they're basically pretty average the same.
Any other questions? And
Yep.
Beth, go ahead, Tim.
Andy, you were involved in the last bond with Mike, and did we have a lot of more support or people taking the survey than this time?
I don't think we ran an
I
online
don't,
one
I don't
last
think we
time.
ran an online one, and didn't
No, I
Cindy
thought we
Bonnick
did.
have
No.
something to do with that?
Okay.
I think Cindy Bonnick had done one, but I think it was.
No, that was.
Right, but
before.
nothing online like this, and then what we did later is after they did that, then like before the election, we had a bunch of parents from
Yeah.
all the buildings,
Right.
come into the buildings and use the phones like in the offices and everything. And, try to get the people to come in and offer to drive them if they need it, you know, drive in here and trying to get everybody to the buildings that they vote at.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, ladies, nice job. I appreciate your time on that. There was a lot of time invested in that, and it's very valuable for us. And I'll go ahead and introduce Evan. Most people know Evan. And Chip Hendrick from Hendrick Construction will be helping or presenting with Evan.
I'd like to thank Aaron and Crystal for doing that survey. It helped us on this end of the project, narrow down our scope of what we were going to possibly be working on. Essentially what we did was we took the survey based on prior or anything like that, put a place to all the projects that the survey on. And that's what John's handing out right now, just to see where we were financially with the estimates of all the various projects.
And I do want to be very clear that the handout I'm passing out now, right at this point, I wouldn't want things to be taken out of context. And so that's why, just so you know, I usually pass handouts out to everyone. Hopefully you've seen over the time here, I'm very transparent. But again, if this were taken out of context, when you just saw it, it's one of those that you would need someone with this piece of paper explaining that. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. Sorry.
We broke these out by building, and each one of these sheets is fairly consistent across the board, with technology being on top, since basically all buildings are about the same in all their needs. The technology side of it is a 10-year plan. It's replacement on workstations and items like that. After 5 years, some of the items are more of the 10-year type device, and that's reflected in the pricing. And you can see, so like, update classroom workstations, we have two separate prices. If you're looking at the high school, $44,000 a piece. Well, one set of $44,000 would be used in initial purchase, the other set would be after 5 years. That's our refresh. And then the building layouts start with mostly heating and cooling at the top, roofs, interior work, and exterior work towards the bottom of the list. We also then, working with Chip the other day, move things around to what we would be considering bond type projects, and the other that we use for sinking funds. That's why you have two columns there. We took these projects across all buildings again. And then if you go back to your cover page, basically we have a summary of all the projects, with the top being what we would consider bond projects, where we get to the $8,393,000, and then possible sinking fund projects, which would be done over a 10-year period, creating focus groups, those type of things, to determine what we're gonna do from year to year, based off of all the projects that we have over here in the sinking fund column.
Just real quick, I had a chance to say this to John, and I would feel bad if I left tonight without saying this. I just really want to compliment the job that Evan did with the consolidation. I mean, we took care of the stuff that needs to be done, but we weren't here full-time, we weren't even here part-time. You know, it was a back and forth. He was our eyes and ears, and he just really did a really great job. And I would just feel bad if I didn't tell also worked together on this. I mean, it was we did an assessment of your buildings and grounds, and Evan worked with me to consolidate the list of items from the recommendation. We priced everything out, and then we sat down together to come up with the items. It didn't take really, took an hour, right? Yeah. Come up with the items that would be bonded, and then you've got your long list items that are sinking fund. I think one thing to remember with sinking fund, we've worked on a lot of school districts that you do sinking funds. We've had some that have outlined from year 1 through year 10 exactly what they're gonna do. None of them actually follow that. After about 3 years, there's always that project that jumps, might not even be on the list. That's the nice thing about a sinking fund, is you have that money coming in to take care of those, the needs, and you're gonna decide each year, what are those needs, the next ones that are the most important for your district. So, it's just a bit of questions.
Evan, question on, the costing of it out. Take the roof, for example, or the roofs. We're looking at $2 million.
Yep.
When I added them up. Did we actually go up, look at them, inspect them?
Oh, yeah, Chip had a consultant come out and he went over all of our roofs, went over all our warranties and where we stand on warranties, and that's how we came to that price. We did the same thing for the HVAC. Chip had a gentleman from IDI come out, walked through all of our buildings, looked at all of our diagrams and got documentation on our HVAC systems, and that's based off of their recommendations.
Do we have any warranties left for any of our roofs?
I think we have 2 sections on this high school that I believe have 4 years left on them. This is a cost for a total replacement, because by the time you go through the bond, the election, the planning, we're gonna be 2 or 3 years down the road anyways, and we'll only have 1 or 2 years left on the warranties.
In the new, if things go well, do we get a big warranty on the new stuff that we put in?
What is,
Is it gonna be better
yeah, what
than-
is a typical,
than it would be if we had?
within that budget?
20 years.
Okay.
20 years means that we're not responsible for any repairs, it's all done under warranty.
That's correct. You can go longer than that, but what a bidder will do is they
Yeah,
roll the
go,
dice
right.
on, if
Right.
they wanna go another 10 years, they say, all right, how many more times will I have to come back to fix something? And they bid that accordingly.
So I'm guessing the last bond then that we fixed roofs, we didn't have that 20-year warranty.
And we didn't do a total roof, we did a few places here and there, because we had some existing warranties, and they were all coming on and going off at different times.
So we patched and repaired and,
What kind of support system up there right now?
wow.
They probably were 15 year then. I mean, typically you see 15 or 20.
So does this involve repairing and replacing everything on the roofs?
We'd have to look at the recommendation of but I believe it was replacing everything on the roof, whether it was the insulation or not, we're not quite sure if it was insulation.
So every roof, all of our buildings will then have a new roof guaranteed for 20 years.
Yes, correct.
So the repair, replace, you have 2 things there, but you have $1 amount.
It's basically, if it could be repaired, we'd repair it, if it couldn't be
So the
repaired,
repair
we're
is in
replacing it.
there.
So the roof is really a replace.
Okay.
The HVAC is a repair, replace type thing, because we're not gonna tear out the existing heating and cooling system, we're gonna basically add to it and increase its functionality a little bit.
So, something like windows, there's quite a bit in here on windows. I mean, to me, I'm not an engineer of that caliber, but they look pretty good. So is it replacement of,
And those would be sinking fund items, they're on that
Right.
list, and that's what something that we would determine down the road, because again, that project could be another 4 or 5 years down the road.
Maybe
Our
even.
situation
Yeah.
could change
Yeah.
in that time frame. So what might have been a repair now could be a replace then.
Good answer.
And that's where we have that flexibility with the sinking fund, to kind of make those determinations on our
Right.
own.
Evans, if we go with this and we decide to replace the roof, does that get bid out,
Yes.
or do we already have somebody in mind that we're,
Because of the dollar amounts, we
You
have
bet.
to bid those.
Most definitely, I'll answer that, yeah.
Anything over out of the threshold's 23,000 some odd dollars.
Not to
Anything
mention
over
the scale of
you're
this.
Required by state law. to
okay,
bid it out.
I just wanted to make sure, okay.
Yes.
Which is, I mean, essentially everything on here.
Yeah.
We do bidding,
Okay.
Whether it's PCs, classroom technologies, the roofs, the heating and cooling. and all.
It gets bid up, okay.
Last time we had the bond, we also had a company come in and take ownership of everything that we were doing. Is that gonna be the same here?
You're probably talking about the construction manager. part
Yes.
now. Yeah, we will have a construction manager for a number of these projects.
But it won't be Barton again.
We'll, what we'll do, if indeed we move forward after this evening, if we move forward after this evening, I'm gonna recommend, and I know we're very busy this time of year, I know that, but there's no way around it, and I've been through this before. We really need a board workshop for just facilities, where we will start with that. And there's a lot of things that we'll have to, a lot of details. So that that would be after the approval, or that, you know, depending on what we do this evening. That's step one, so.
Contingency, what,
The unexpected.
no,
things.
no, I know what that is, but how did you get to the number?
That was a plug-in rate that we had in here.
Is that a standard percent you use, or?
Yes, you could not go to Treasury without a contingency
Right.
fund there, they'll let it get through without that. And I always use 7%, you know, I might go a little less depending on what it is, never have I had lower than 5, ever. Typically 7, I've got another project for Kingston Schools, I'm up to 10, but it's all interior remodeling and
Yeah.
an awful lot of question marks with that. The other thing I'd say on the roof is that we didn't ask or authorize, it's not really the time now, but one of the things we'd like to do is, you know, for a building like this, you might spend $5,000 or $6,000 to do an infrared test on the entire roof. Rather than do a total removal and replacement, there's no reason to tear off insulation that still is good. So
Right.
there's a way to test that, and if that's the case, I mean, you might save a couple, $200,000 to $300,000 possibly just on this building alone. And if that's the case, then you could use that money to do some of the, you know, whatever's that next most important thing that would be in renovation to any of your buildings.
Any other questions? Both of you spent a lot of time on that. Thank you for your time. Nice job. Good report. Okay. The next presenter is Bill Roach, who has worked with us on our bond refinances and has also is working with us on this potential project.
Good evening. In looking at the financing of the project, we ran options for the district to look at bond issues, sinking funds, and a combination of both. As other participants have outlined, the recommendation to the board has been to do a combination of bonds and sinking funds, because legally, currently, you cannot purchase computers and certain other technology from a sinking fund. And a bond issue is better for financing longer-term projects like roof repairs, heating, ventilation, air conditioning that has a longer average life. The bond issue, if it is approved by the board and the voters, would more than likely be sold in series, because you're going to be doing a large amount of technology, and part of the goal is to replace those computers 5, 6 years down the road when they're no longer functioning properly. So under federal tax law and state law, you're required, if you go out and borrow or buy computers next July or June, to amortize and pay off those computers during their useful life. So as Chip and I and Evan go over the proceeds and look at the technology purchases, we have to make sure we're able to demonstrate to Treasury that those computers are paid off within 5 years of being purchased and are not being amortized over a 15 or 20-year period when you're paying on something that no longer is in use anymore. And then the refresh, or a second series of bonds down the road, would allow you to do another series of computer purchases when your existing technology is no longer functioning properly. So we will be making sure, and that's one of the things that voters often have questions on, if we're going to be doing out of the bond issue some roof repairs and technology, people will say, hey, you're doing a 15 or 20-year bond issue and you're buying computers from it. But we'll be able to demonstrate that the computers are being paid off in full during their useful life, and that's not being amortized over a longer period. The sinking fund will give you greater flexibility, because as Evan and Chip said, you have a lot more flexibility. You don't have to predetermine, like a bond issue, how you're going to expend those proceeds up front. So if 2 years from now a boiler goes or something like that, your sinking fund will be able to fund those projects. One of the other caveats, if you would, is right now, House Bill, Senate 40, I think it's 4388, is proposed that if it is passed, it would allow sinking funds to purchase computers and technology. That's still in the House, it hasn't gotten out of the House, it was supposedly tied to the Detroit legislation, and the assumption was once Detroit passed, it would be getting out. But we haven't heard any updates yet from the lobbyists that we work with through MASB or MASA as to where that stands. Depending upon when that gets approved, your sinking fund could potentially, if it votes in November, allow for technology. So that would give you additional flexibility down the road. We did put some charts in here to show what the 2 mil increase would be for a taxpayer. So if you're at the top of the food chain, you have, say, a $400,000 house, that $400,000 cash value is a $200,000 taxable value, and before tax, it would cost you $400 a year. And then we ran a grid dependent upon the individual's tax bracket at the federal level, because property taxes are deductible for federal income tax purposes. If you itemize, your effective tax rate would be substantially lower than that $400. And it just gives you an idea, it's dependent upon what your home value is, cash and taxable, and then you can sort of interpolate where you think your marginal tax break is, and what your actual after-tax cost. And then we broke it out on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have one for Evan and John, maybe. What are we doing with the iPad program? Is it that, is it into these numbers?
It is not in those numbers.
So are we gonna just kill it?
Well, I mean, there's some flexibility. The way we will word the bond language, there will be some flexibility with the purchase of technology. So again, if we have approval this evening, we have more time to work with the teachers and administrators as far as what kind of technology they need. The current program, though, or the current equipment, we're using it very well, actually. I know in this building, Mr. Melrose gathered that equipment, and teachers check it out to use with their classrooms. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill and Chip, but we will word the ballot such to where we will have flexibility with technology purchases, which gives us more time as far as the specifics of what we need. I get asked that every time I present at a staff meeting, what technology are we getting? And I look back at the teachers and I say, you tell us. I mean, we will be going to you. You know your different grade levels and content areas. We'll be going to you to tell us what kind of technology you need. What we ask from a district level, though, will be standardization. We're not going to do one thing here and the other here because we have to manage it. So.
Just a quick update for you. If you did proceed with it and it's approved by the voters in November, you could have a bond issue sold late winter, early spring, in order to start construction or purchases next summer. From the sinking fund standpoint, that would not go on your tax rolls until next July 1st, unless you wanted to have a separate December 1st levy. But your sinking fund money then would start coming in next July.
Is there a time limit on how much time we have to spend that once it's approved, the bond?
Normally 3 years from the time we issue bonds, you have to have the proceeds spent. So yes, there are requirements for federal tax law.
So we'd have more than one bond if Evan mentioned, there's some that would have to be.
Yes, there would be.
So there'd be another.
Correct.
Step
So your
behind
first
it, so
bond
you-
issue, might be $2 to $4 million, dependent upon the projects that we end up prioritizing. And then there would be a second series, 5 to 6 years down the road, to what they call a refresh or update and replace your existing computers and technology that are no longer operating properly.
And could you secure that money ahead of time in case interest rates jumped high?
In theory, it's possible, but for that long of a period, the interest rates that you would pay wouldn't it be worth doing it on that small of an issue? In theory, it's possible to go out 5 years, but it just wouldn't be cost effective on a $3 or $4 million deal. The price or penalty you would pay, the insurance to sort of lock in that rate would be onerous. But on the bright side, we are moving ahead with the refunding of your 2008 and 2009 bond issue. Market still looks good. We're looking at about $1.4 million in total savings for the taxpayers, a potential reduction in the debt levy of approximately 0.15 to over 2.2 mils. And we are looking at pricing that bond issue May 18th. So that will be done and completed before we would go to the voters on this transaction.
I have one quick question though. And you answered the question for everybody that I asked you earlier, thank you. So so there'll be some of the technology bonds sold now, and then there'd be the refreshers sold later. All right, so you're selling different series of bonds at different times. Does the collection of the 1 mil levy start, now, whether we've sold bonds or not to the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so that no matter when they go or when they come, we've been collecting the money to
Correct.
handle that.
That way it allows us to pay off those computer and technology purchases within that 5-year time frame.
Right.
So we'll be taking full use of the 1 mil debt levy on the bond issue. It would also start on the sinking fund as well, next July. But yes, that way it'll allow us to amortize those technology purchases with the 5-year required time period.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also on the financial piece, again, I just want to point out that our tax burden in regard to levy for facilities is one of the lower in the county, and then correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, when we refinance, in theory, that number would actually go down.
Correct.
So it could even be lower than the 4.25. If East China and Port Huron pass their bonds here next week, we could potentially be the lowest in the county burden on our taxpayers. And so, I do want to point that out, not in a manipulative way, but just in a factual way that, I don't think by any means, I think we are conservative. This is data, not my opinion. I think we are conservative in the approach. Thanks, Bill, for. In summary, I appreciate the time that our staff put into this. I feel like we've done it the right way. I feel like we didn't just sit in this room here amongst administrators with the construction manager and say, hey, what do we think we need? We went to our community, we went to our staff, probably more than the principals wanted me to. I'm at every single one of their meetings. But it's important to me. And we're out in the community as much as possible, encouraging people to be a part of this process. So we went to our community and staff, those items were listed, we put numbers to those items, and we came up with a plan that is consistent with what the community and staff told us. And that is they want a facility and technology bond that replaces the technology and that does the basics, fixes the basics, and that's heating, cooling, roofing, and those kind of items. And again, just to stress the fact that the recommendation that you have before you, and that is the recommendation for a 2 mil tax levy increase, 1 mil bond, 1 mil sinking fund. What that allows us to get what we need for the bond, those items that I mentioned, the technology with a refresh in there, I emphasize that. The roofs and the heating and cooling, which our community prioritized, and we did as well. So we're parallel with what our community believes. But it also gives us about $600,000 a year that whatever format you, the board would want to follow. I would recommend having a workshop where the community can come in and like we do with curriculum and finances. And each year, maybe in February, we discuss the projects for that following year. Because like Chip said, the beauty of the sinking fund is who knows in 8 years from now. We may have this plan laid out, but who knows what might happen in 8 years. Your priorities may adjust, and that would allow for that adjustment. So with that said, I believe we've done our due diligence. I will be recommending at this point, but we'll have discussion now, 2 mil tax levy increase, 1 mil bond, 1 mil sinking fund. But basically, those are the projects that Evan did list there. And with that, Beth, I don't know how you want to lead the discussion or.
I have a question.
Yeah.
would you still be asking for 2 mills, say if, for whatever reason, we were able to knock $1 million or $1.2 million out of this, would your recommendation still be 2 mills?
Yeah, just because, again, the combination allows for that upfront to fix what we need to fix, the core items, and it allows for, and it does two things. It not only allows for adjustments as time goes on, 10 years out, each year to have that money, but it also helps your general fund. You know, I'm not ashamed to say that, where certainly if a major repair came up, and like with our fund equity now, which we're rebuilding, but, you know, if there were a major repair that came up, this money, and correct me, Chip and Bill, if I'm out of line, but this money could be used as long as it's facility and technology and fit within the language. So, yes, I would still, even cutting $1 million, well, really, there were $20 to $25 million of items listed there, and even with this, we're cutting it back significantly from that. So, good question.
John, with the sinking fund, there's several projects that will come over a period of time, type of thing. We'll identify what they are and what dollars are associated with them. My question is, how does that parallel with our attempts and our efforts to build our fund equity back up over year after year after year? So some of these things I see that if we didn't have a fund balance issue, we would go to fund balance and make these purchases. So how would you differentiate, or would you not? Would it all come from sinking fund and you wouldn't touch fund balance?
Through discussion. Each year we would have to see what those priorities are, to see if it was something that we, like fixing the tennis courts or what have you, just for an example. You know, certainly that's an item that we wouldn't probably use general fund money for, even if we had a fund equity, we wouldn't use fund money for that. So I believe that, I hope and let me know if I'm not answering your question, but no, I can't say that all the items that that are listed there were items that were going to come out of general fund if we didn't pass the sinking fund, no.
I guess for the items that would generally come out of your general fund, and I'm not sure which ones those are or not, type of thing, but would there be a decision that we use general fund versus tapping into the sinking fund?
And that could be part of that annual discussion, because who knows what that list is in even 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
What I particularly like about this is the long-term, and no, maybe we see things on there that we're going, do we really? But again, we don't know what's gonna happen, and just look at the last 5 years, you know, things happen, so I'm good with this 1 mil bond and 1 mil sinking fund.
Any other questions? So Crystal, it is on the agenda, right, as an action
Yes.
item, so. As of now, again, just to reiterate to the community, the recommendation is a 2 mil tax levy increase, including 1 mil bond and then a 1 mil sinking.
Thank you to all of you for all of your work, appreciate it.
Yep. A lot of good information here.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda items.
I'll make a motion, Board of Education approves all consent agenda items, including the agenda, minutes, personnel items, treasurer's report, and bills as listed, items A through C.
Support?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our information items, the RESA budget review.
It's basically an annual
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. And there's how many pages? I was going through. So if we all understand what RESA is saying, then good for us. But we do have to pass that resolution, or whatever we're going to do with it, before June 1st.
Well, you have to pass a resolution that either supports that budget or does not support that budget.
Right. Last year, I believe we did not support.
Did not.
Support.
And,
A lot of good it did.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But we felt better.
But they do what they
At
want.
least we voted no on it.
Right. Okay, cash borrowing, it's that time of year. we're gonna need some money.
And just, I want to emphasize on that, we do work with True Law, which again is the top law firm in the state as far as, they have like 80 to 90% of the schools in Michigan in some way, form, or another. And then also we went with a cash flow management company. So I want to make sure you know that, I just want to emphasize to the community too, that we do take borrowing very seriously. And that's, to be quite blunt, that's why we're rebuilding our fund equity, is because it's not a good practice to borrow. So with that said, though, we did get, the analysis came from people that do that for a living, as far as what, looking at our data, what we feel we need. So, and Dorothy, chime in anytime if you want.
Yeah.
We do need to borrow 1.8 million this year. What did that compare to last year? Okay.
And last year we paid 1%, wasn't it? 0.99%. So, but that doesn't justify borrowing, because it's still the point of it. I want you to be conservative, it's still the point of it, but not bad. I mean, pretty good interest rates.
Was it about 7% fund equity that we wouldn't have to tap in? Plus or minus? Not 10%.
I'm thinking more like 10.
10%?
I don't know the exact, but I'm thinking in and around 10.
So it won't be long.
Right, John?
3 to 5, yeah. Yes. I'll add that to the list. Thanks, Dorothy.
And you have a plan for staff appreciation?
Jen?
Yes, we do. For us, it's going to be May the 13th, a Friday. We're making it a good Friday the 13th. Going to be serving cinnamon rolls or muffins. I'm not sure which it's going to be, but it's one or the other. And I'm asking if the administration from Point Tremble, Millside, Algonquin would come to the cafeteria at the high school around 7 o'clock in the morning to pick up the trays. There will be a card on top for, just for show, for just thanking all staff members, and that we appreciate all their hard work. And that would be from the board and also all the administration. So if you cannot make it, and perhaps maybe Al would do the bus garage.
Sure.
Please, and then we'll have all the buildings taken care of, okay? And Melissa and Abe, will get, I can, okay, perfect, thank you.
I can actually probably get his since I'm going back there.
Well, that's true, okay, perfect, and Kelly, if you
Good
would
job,
mind?
Al.
Perfect. Thank you.
Administrative contracts?
Evaluations have been completed, and this is the timeline for the time of year for the approval of the information item for administrative contracts, and then we'll seek approval next month.
Can I sit on any of them?
You're welcome to. You did on mine.
I'm kidding, I'm looking at Al and asking.
Make him nervous, like you, yeah.
Okay, this post-issuance tax compliancy, you wanna,
Basically,
The
it's a
IRS.
recommendation from True Law, I believe, right? And so,
Yes, and it was a recommendation during the IRS audit, that we adopt this policy. It'll come before.
right, correct.
Right.
Next month.
okay, administrative reports, Mr. Melrose is not available tonight.
Mitch has it.
Mr. Lansing will take it, okay.
The SAT, the PSAT, the work keys, makeup testing is going on this week. The 8th and the 11th grade M-STEP will be completed by the end of the week. 7th grade M-STEP begins next Monday. We're happy to report that there have been limited issues with the online testing, and everything's been going smoothly. We have prom week this week, and SAD sponsoring a spirit week, and today was a memorable moment shirt. Tomorrow is white t-shirt Sharpie day, so the kids wear a t-shirt and all their buddies sign their shirts. Wednesday is blue and gold day and baby picture day, so the kids will wear a baby picture pinned sure. There's a contest with staff members for students to guess who the staff member baby pictures are. Thursday is the most memorable Spirit Day, and Friday is Red Day or Patriotic Day. Spirit Week will end with a sad presentation on Friday to all the juniors and seniors about making smart choices, and prom will be this Saturday at 7 at the Marine City Banquet Center. And we have our second annual Color Out Cancer Run hosted by the National Honor Society, which is May 8th. At 9 a.m. The race is 4.3 miles, pushing a little over a 5K. Registration will include a t-shirt, bandana, and a color packet. The race begins at the high school and will end at the Clay Township Park, where there'll be raffle prizes, food, and music. This year's proceeds will be donated to a local family in need for treatment. And to read more of the story, Mr. Motos has a link if any of you'd like to read that. He said he'd share that with you. And last but not least, we want to recognize our top senior achievers. And the following students are this year's top 10. The top 10 is figured out using the formula that combines ACT scores, GPA, and honors classes. And we have Allison Urbon, Abigail Nutter, Caitlin Furman, Yvonne Tarakian, Samantha Pruitt, Nicholas Eldridge, Ryan Malberg, Alexander Nedvedek, Tyler Fogg, and Joseph Hinkie round out our top 10. And that's it for me. As far as athletics goes, spring sports are going strong. Varsity softball had a big weekend, beating Marysville on Friday 3-2, and then coming back and beating Marine City 8-0 and 16-2. Man, that's awesome. It's always fun to do that. Soccer is playing real well. They're 3-1 in the conference right now, and their last game, they got one tonight. I don't know how they did, but their last game they beat Yale 7-0. The boys track team took second at the Lakeshore Invitational, and the girls took third, and then came back, and both teams won their dual meets against Emily City and Almont. So the last thing that I have is we have the Muskrat Classic coming up on May the 7th here at 9:30. It's always a big event for us, and then we'll also be hosting again the MHSAA Regionals. So if any of you'd like to volunteer, feel free, just let me know.
Mitch, thanks for doing all that for the kids. I mean, people don't realize that it's so much work on his part and the staff for our kids to be at home. Sometimes people don't realize the AD, well, Al was an AD, he understands. But it's good for the kids because they're at home.
When
So
is
that's
regionals?
cool.
It's a Friday afternoon, May 20th at 3:30 will begin.
Thanks, Mitch. Abe's absent.
Mrs. Hanners.
Right. I'm gonna report a little bit from the side and out down
Okay.
here, because we have a few things going on. So we just had a Leader in Me coaching day. Our coach came back out on Friday for both buildings. It went very well. She's real impressed. She has us on the right track. Both grants have been renewed for next year, and trainings are being set up in the summer. Both staffs are preparing to move forward for different things next year. A big thing next year added on to the Leader in Me is data binders, where students are setting their own academic goals and tracking their progress as they go along, and sharing that out with their families. So it's going to be exciting next year. Millside has their Leadership Day on May 25th. So I will send the agendas out to the entire board and the community as well. Anybody's welcome to come in and join us that day. Our little ones in kindergarten and first grade are going to showcase their leadership skills and all the ways that they think that they're doing a great job. And I just say it's impressive to see our first graders lead.
It is, it's neat. Like when we had that lunch where they greeted us, yeah.
Yes, we had a couple greeters, and they took their job very seriously.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
A couple got by them ahead of time, so they had to go in and introduce themselves and make sure that they knew that they were supposed to be there for lunch.
Did a wonderful job.
And they made sure that we knew that you will be having lunch in here, and we'll be having lunch right over there across the hall from you. The one little kid said that.
You never know what they're going to say.
No, you don't know.
Both schools also received a Walk for Summer reading grant from the St. Clair County Medical Association. We are walking on the same days. Parents drop students off in front of either school on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We have staff out there as well as parents walking with the kids, earning books for summer reading. Laura Chambliss, the science and math consultant from the RISA, will be out at Millside tomorrow
working on some science discovery units for the youngest students in science. On the curriculum front, today we had our third day of our teacher evaluation training series. We have one more day in June for the lead team, which consists of administrators, central office personnel, and teaching staff. They then will come back out and train the entire staff on our back to school September 1st. So finishing up the teacher evaluation training. State testing is going well at Algonquin. Curriculum, the curriculum for 7-12 have met recently quite a few times. We, at this point, the teachers have narrowed it down to the choice curriculum books and the course sequencing that they feel would be best. They are now taking it to the students and the parents to get some feedback to see if there's anything that we need to tweak or anything that we need to add. That'll come at the curriculum workshop on May 2nd, all the details for that as well. Lots of stuff going on right now.
So just,
Thank
again, just a reminder, the May 2nd workshop, curriculum workshop.
Thank you. Mrs. Williams?
Good evening. I'm very excited to bring this month, Yahoo! Our nature playground has been worked on. Thanks to Mr. Collins and a couple other companies and staff that we came out on Saturday. And if you go over there, you're going to see how nice it turned out. The kids absolutely love it. We had big logs brought in, and there's beautiful mulch finally got put down. And, just, it looks real nice. So if you have a chance, go over. Of course, we'll be adding to it. We do have tires that are still over there. We've put them so that it doesn't look like a big pile. We are working on those. We're going to be doing gardens and things with those this summer. And then just to let you know that all of the tires that you do see being used, we did drill holes in all of them, just so you know we won't have mosquito problems and things like that. We hope. I'll be keeping my eye on that to make sure we don't have any issues there. And then I'm excited, we did get a wonderful letter from the Algonac Clay Community Fund and Rotary that we did receive the second half of a wonderful grant to help us get some furnishings for our toddler room and some other items, which we did receive. And very, very excited. The kids love it. And you can always go on to our Facebook page too and see pictures of the kids on the playgrounds and in the rooms with the new items and all that. If you ever want to see some of the things being used, we have it on our Facebook quite often. We're really excited about our first community St. Clair County Kite Day. It's on April 30th, this Saturday from 10 to 12. We know there's a ton of other activities going on, holy cow, all over the place. But we're hoping that we will have a decent turnout because we've been really happy that we've gotten a lot of local businesses involved. McDonald's, we might even have Ronald McDonald here, Elias Brothers, we might have Big Boy coming. We're gonna have Ronald McDonald and Big Boy duking it out. No, I'm just kidding. I'll keep my eye on that, won't let it happen. We have the wonderful fish company in Marine City that's donating a bunch of hula-hoos and balloons. Growing Smiles is coming for dental work. Just all kinds of stuff going on. We're gonna have kite cookies and, oh gosh, just come over and see. And you know that you want to come to our silly face photo booth, and you also want to get your face painted. So be there or be square. Okay. So that will be a lot of fun, and then you go over to the high school for the powwow, right? Yep. That's happening right after the kite. So look at how convenient, everyone, on there. So then we have our preschool field day coming up on May 20th from 9 to 12. Lots of games and activities there because, of course, our preschoolers are graduating on graduation night, May 25th, here in the lecture hall from 6:30 to 7:30. If you've never come to preschool graduation, I'm telling you, just come at least once and come and see it. It is so cute and it's really awesome and they're so excited. We already have our summer registration date set up for May 31st and we're just gearing up for summer. We're, by the graciousness of Dr. Stricker and Evan, we're going to sneak in and use their wonderful computer room for a whole literacy and library I can't think of the name of it, sorry, that we're going to be doing with them anyway to bring literacy and reading with the kids on the computer. So we're really excited about that. All of our normal enrichment classes, field trips, We're gonna start off a summer pen pal program with the Port Huron YMCA, and, oh gosh, there's just so much, I could go on forever, but I won't, I'll sit down and be quiet for once. So, thank you, and once again, anytime you wanna come and see us, you're all welcome, come on over.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
passion.
I try to talk fast.
Very passionate.
Okay, Mr. Latos.
You know, no matter how hard I try, the district process rubric and the district improvement plan just don't have that same kind of. But they're getting close to being done, so just in case you want to know. We are in that stage where we're planning for next year. Talking with Ryan, he wanted to get testing done before he could work on staffing at the high school. So next week will really be a focus over the course of the next couple weeks. Obviously, staffing at the high school is kind of the first step, and then trickles down into the middle, into the elementary. So we're hoping to have that taken care of within the next 2 weeks and get a pretty good grip of where we're going to be sitting next year. John's got preliminary numbers for kindergarten that he'll share with you too at some point. Probably will help us decide what kind of staffing we're looking at, where we need to be getting thinner and whatever the case is for that. Our district process rubric was submitted this week. Not that that's anything real new and exciting for us, but it's our first step in the school improvement process for the district. So we have our district improvement plan, which is due June 30th, which we'll be working on over the course of the next month. And like Melissa said, day 3 of our thoughtful classroom evaluation training, one more in June. We'll be done with that process, all the administrators, and have that in place for next year.
How's that going?
Very interesting. It'll be comprehensive. So when teachers are evaluated, I get a sense it's very collaborative. You're working with the teacher, and there's a lot of communication, pre-conference, post-conference, after the evaluation. So I think it'll be comprehensive. I think it'll allow for a lot of good dialogue, and I think it's going to be a good tool going forward. So.
And then how does this evaluation tool, now that we, have more knowledge of it through this training you guys have been getting, how does this correlate to, moving up to the new administrative and superintendent or whatever, evaluations? Is this something to go the same direction from, or not?
I think it can, Andy. There's not a part of that that's supported in there's not an administrative one that's supported by Thoughtful Classroom that I'm aware of. But I do think that there's a lot of concepts and a lot of things that are within that could be translated into an administrative one as well. So yeah, potentially down the road, I think it could be. And that's it.
I'll be anxious to see it. Is it measurable?
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, we're gonna run into the same problem for a little bit of time, until we could get some solid data from the state on the state test, because when you look at the student growth piece, a big part of that is still the state assessment. And I don't know how much you guys have been reading in terms of the paper, but it looks like this very well could be the last year for the M-STEP. So here we had the M-STEP for 2 years, and this very well could be the end of the road for that. So again, in terms of trying to get some kind of baseline data with measuring growth, it's very difficult to do right now. So we rely on, assessment growth from common assessments within the schools, but we know that's probably not the best data to use. And then what we do with SAT and some DIBEL stuff, some norm testing, it's just right now, it makes it tough to get a number put to it when you can't have that growth data that you need.
Right.
So, we'll do the best we can,
Right.
what we have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Stricker?
Just for my update, I want to address, there's been a couple newspaper articles regarding the Dream Center of Michigan. Just to set the record straight, with my involvement, the gentleman that bought Algonac Elementary called and asked if I would be involved at potentially looking at a group that would want to come in to our community into that building, Algonac Elementary, that he just had purchased, or his company had purchased, and they're called Dream Centers of Michigan. The way it was explained to me initially was it's more or less like a YMCA. It's a place that offers classes, activities, but it certainly involves children. So this gentleman asked me if I wanted to be involved because I'm ultimately the one responsible for the education of our children in this community from the school standpoint. And so I certainly wanted to be involved in that. I'd rather have had say in something than not to be involved. We had some initial meetings, and this group, they come in, and the first thing they do is they ask you, what do you need in your community? And so I want to stress that. The meetings, and we'll involve more people as we go down the road, but they know it's not a cookie cutter. What maybe is needed in Los Angeles, California, they actually have them outside the state, is certainly not is what may be needed in Oakland County, and then what our need is. The needs are different. For example, maybe in our community, the need is simply a place for activities for the kids to go because it has a nice gym, good facility. There's a nice courtyard, maybe for senior citizens and a garden group or whatever. But I want to make sure I stress that they're coming to us saying, what do you need here? And so there's the information. So I think where there's some confusion is people are looking into this right away and seeing the information about the Dream Center, and they're saying, well, that's not what we need here. That's exactly why this group came in and involved people like myself, because they want to know what are the needs here. And so I just want to make sure people know that, because I still stand strong behind the fact that I believe our children need more to do in the winter in particular than the activities. Either have school activities, a bowling alley, and actually not even a movie theater. So I'm just saying, I'm looking at it from that perspective of positive things for kids to do, a positive place for children to go. But anyway, so that's all. And I really don't know much more than that. People think I know more than I do about it. So
If I could just add to this, I appreciate that you shared this with all of us, but I think we have to make sure that everyone is clear that this is not an Algonac school project.
good point.
I think we as a board should be pretty proud that a businessman of good standing recognized that we have a leader, and that's who he chose to search out. But I know that there's been a lot of confusion with the public. This is not an Algonac school project. No. This does not involve the Algonac School Board as we sit. Going down the road, if any one of us want to be involved in this project, I'm sure we can. But again, we have to remember that this has nothing to do with the Algonac school system.
That's correct.
The only thing the Algonac School Board did was decide to sell the property. We did that, mission accomplished, whatever happens now. And I mean, I commend you
That's a
that
good point.
you see something good here, but again, this really is not a school
That
project.
is correct.
Although
Good point.
some people might perceive it to be
That
because
is
we are
correct.
involved.
And that's why I wanted to talk about it.
Right.
That's why we.
But we
wanted-
are not. We
set
are
the
not
record
involved. John Stricker, the man who loves kids, may be a little bit involved, but he's not involved as the school superintendent, just as a leader of the community.
So, and I'll keep you posted. You know,
Whether
it's
we
going,
wanna
it's a
be
positive,
whether
well, it's a
we wanna
positive
be
for the community, so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks. That's all I
Okay.
have.
All right, board report. I have something, and I know Kelly mentioned this, but the Algonac Clay Fund, Community Fund, is hosting their annual Cinco de Mayo dinner on May 6th this year at the Algonac Banquet Center. We have plenty of tickets. I know you can,
I have tickets.
well, actually, excuse me,
I
but
have
Mr.
tickets.
Landrum has tickets first. Mr. Landrum has tickets first, but something that we're really proud this year, we're going to be giving away over $22,000 in scholarships and grants. And I think we should all be proud of that, and we're real excited about that, so. We invite all of you. It's a good night. It's a good, fun night, so. see Mr. Landrum and let him sell his tickets.
And I have some you can use if you run out. And I have something for you
Okay.
too. We received a thank you for our donation to the Algonac Sports Boosters auction dinner. And I won't read it, but they're naming what they purchased from the auction last year. And this year we donated funds to help them, and this is their thank you, so just letting you all know.
Anyone else?
Just a reminder, we've got the Muskrat Scramble coming up on June 11th at Golden Hawk Golf Club. We're gonna go over the $200,000 mark this year. In total, it's the 13th outing, and it's starting to sell a lot of tickets, so if you wanna be in it, let me know.
Anyone else? Okay, visitors and their requests.
Yes, we do have one. Mrs. Shutt?
Mrs. Shutt, if you'd like to stand.
I have a complaint because I picked up my grandson in second grade. He come out of the school, he was crying. I immediately took him home and checked him. He had a 104-degree temperature. I asked him why he didn't tell the teacher. He told me he did. She told him to sit down and hold his head. I said, "You're sick, why didn't you tell her again?" He said, "I told her and she told me to sit down." So anyhow, like I said, he came home, he had a 104-degree temperature. I tried to call the school, they chose not to answer the phone, but I went in there, they were in there, sitting at the desk, but they just didn't answer the phone. Then the secretary and the teacher both gave me two conflicting stories. It didn't make no sense. The secretary said, the substitute had sent 4 kids down there that day that were sick. And they had sent 2 home. But my grandson, they chose to tell him to sit down and hold his head. I said, "Is that supposed to make me feel any better? That she sent 4 kids down here but left mine sitting in the room?" So when they went back to school after the break on Tuesday, I went in and I confronted the teacher. She told me she never sent anybody down to the office that day that was sick.
How is your grandson now?
Well, he's fine now, but 104-degree temperature. The teacher told me she felt him and he did not feel hot. I told her, I said, "If you can't tell that an 8-year-old has a 104-degree temperature, then maybe you're in the wrong profession."
Was he feeling sick before he went to school?
No.
He didn't have a fever before he went to school?
Nope. And she tried to, the teacher told me that, he probably got sick from the time, his fever got that high from the time he left school till he arrived at home. And I told her, well, that didn't happen because we pick him up every night at the door. He came out of school crying with a temperature that high. Everybody else, and the teacher may take it lightly, but my son has had convulsions from high fever. I have a cousin that had convulsions so bad from a high fever that he's on disability and declared legally blind.
Was your grandson able to go to school the next day?
It was over that.
Oh, it was a weekend?
Yeah,
Oh.
they got him.
He was okay.
He ended up in the doctor and then he had to go to the emergency, so.
Thank you. I'm sorry that you had a bad experience that way.
So am I.
That's the only one I have.
Okay, action items. The only one we have is the technology and facilities recommendation.
Make a motion, the Board of Education approves the superintendent's recommendation of the technology and facility plan as presented.
Support?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
And that motion carries. Now we are going to be moving into closed session for negotiations.
I'll make a motion, Board of Education goes into closed session for the purpose of discussing negotiations at 8:30.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you all. There'll be no action when we come back. What can you say to that? What can you say? I didn't want to say anything about Abe's report. You know, his grandmother.